Welcome back to a very, very special segment of the ThunderCast. I've got somebody that Herd fans are really, really familiar with, a player that provided levels of excitement inside the Cam Henderson Center for the women's basketball program that we haven't seen in quite a few years. I'm lucky enough today to sit down with reigning Sun Belt Player of the Year, Abby Beeman. Abby, thanks for taking a little bit of time out of your afternoon and joining me and just talking a little bit today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Are you kidding? Like I'm the one winning here today. Like I'm on the right side of this discussion. But look, in my history, I've always found that it's usually best to start at the beginning when we're talking about the stories. You have a great story, and I want to showcase that a little bit. Um, you've done so much to provide for Herd fans over the last 2 seasons, helping tremendously in capturing 2 championships this season for the Herd. The Sun Belt regular season championship, the Sun Belt tournament championship. We made a trip back to the NCAA tournaments for the first time since 1997. And yeah, I'm going to date myself a little bit. I would eventually become a freshman in 1997 at Marshall. So that tournament trip even predates my tenure with Marshall. That would have happened in the spring. I didn't make it there until August. But it all started for you in a little small town in the panhandle of West Virginia called Ridgely. And we were talking a little bit before, and I admittedly had not heard of Ridgely. I had to look it up. But it's right kind of on the border-ish with Pennsylvania and Maryland. So you get that small town vibe, but you mentioned to me, like, it ain't in the middle of nowhere. I had access to things. I could do things. But tell me this, how does a basketball player from a town of under 1,000, A, get out of that small town, and B, turn into a Division I player of the year?
Yeah, so it's definitely not easy to do, which is why I think I received so much support from my hometown because not very many people get to do what I've been able to do. So I think, it didn't happen, just me getting all these offers out of high school because I did go to Frankfort High School and that's only like 500 kids. So that's not very big either. But so I ended up at a nearby Division two, which Shepherd was only about like an hour from my hometown, and I had to reach out to all those schools for them to even just give me a chance. So went to Shepherd, and then from there I was able to be pretty successful. And then when I was transferring, obviously the rest is kind of history. But yeah, just a lot of hard work and using the resources that were available to me, and just kind of trusting that it'd all work out.
Wow. I mean, you kind of beat me to the punch, because I want to talk about the process. And I was not prepared for you to say I actually had to reach out to these schools to take a look at me, because from a Herd fan perspective, it's kind of unfathomable as how did that happen? Because we saw what we saw on the court. We saw the production and the leadership and just the relentless effort, like all these boxes, check, 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 check. So it's hard for me to understand how the hell did you not like leap off of the radar? Even if it's a small town, small school, I get it. But you would like to think, well, somebody somewhere had to see, what was going on. So the recruiting process for you was slow, and you really did the footwork. Can we dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like you said, it was like didn't really have much reaching out to me, if anyone at all. So going into probably my junior year that summer, I like was reaching out to a bunch of Division twos, some Division ones, and just like kind of getting my feel for it, see if they'd even give me the time of day to respond. Got a few responses from some Division twos, and like they always suggest coming to the elite camp so they can see you. And I didn't play. I think one thing that kind of like I don't want to say held me back, but I think a lot of kids get their exposure from playing on like big AAU teams.
Mm-hmm.
And being from like this area, even though like I am like bordered by some other states and where they might be bigger areas, there's still like not a lot of, I hate to say it, but like people that are really interested in athletics. So like there wasn't like a really good AAU team around. So I think that kind of like that didn't help at all not having an AAU team. And if I would have played on a good one like West Virginia Thunder, they had reached out to me, but it's like a 4-hour drive to practice, so it just really wasn't like possible for me to do. So I went to that elite camp, the Shepherd Elite Camp, going into my junior year that summer. The coach, I actually didn't play well at all. And I went up to the coach and I was like, hey, this is not normally how I play. I just want to let you know, like, I'm better than this. And she was like, well, I can see your potential right away. Like, I can see you have talent. So, like, talked to them, was talking to some other D2s. I don't know if you're familiar with, like, IUP. I was talking to them, some other West Virginia ones, Fairmont. But didn't really, like, feel the love from any of them, really, except for Shepherd. And then I went on a visit there, and they offered me, a good amount of money. And like to that point, no one else had really like believed in me. So not even a week later, I was like, I finally got someone to jump on board. So I'm going to commit there. So that's kind of how that happened.
Absolutely baffling, because I've spoken to a number of our athletics alums in the course of, just doing this type of thing. And some have been under recruited, some have been, as you would expect, recruited commensurate with their talent level. But you're the first to tell me like there was nothing. I had to do it all. That is completely lopsided to the level of talent that you have. And that's what's mind boggling to me, right? It's like, it's not like I'm a borderline player that could stick somewhere on the end of the bench and just barely make a team. No, it's like I can start for you. I can produce for you. I can lead you to a championship. And there was just nothing. That is so utterly mind boggling. But I love that part of the story because I think that's just kind of so West Virginia in and of itself. Like you got to work a little harder. You got to be willing to do sometimes what others won't to achieve what you want to achieve. And we talk about this all the time on the show. West Virginia as a whole is just vastly under recruited because of the populations. I made the point speaking from a football standpoint, like it's tough to for coaches to justify going to somewhere in West Virginia to see one or two kids when they can come where I'm at outside of Tampa and you can literally see hundreds of kids.
Yeah.
So I understand the business side of it, but you are unique in so far that you have done all of the work, all of the lifting. I love it because there are kids, younger kids, high school kids that are going to listen to this and they're going to be like, well, I can do that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that to me is should be tremendously rewarding to know that maybe these 2 or 3 minutes that we're talking right here is going to push somebody to not give up, to go chase that, that dream. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter the level. If you want to play, you'll play.
Yeah. Right? I always say that too.
Yeah. So ultimately you mentioned you end up at Shepherd, where it was like I'm sure not in your mind because you said you were you were good enough to play there. You told the coach, hey, this is not how I play. I'm better than this. Well, it wasn't a burst on the scene type of moment, but it kind of was because you lead the team in scoring and steals and assists. You're freshman of the year. I mean, so all these things are like, see, I kind of told you so. And then not to be outdone, you become a Division II All-American, right? And this is kind of where it gets interesting to me. What made you decide to maybe enter the portal and see what was out there? Was it like, see, I told you I was Division I material? Was it a little bit of, I want to see if I can do this? I want to see if I can make it at this level. Like what went into the decision? Because you were onto something there at Shepherd.
Yeah. So actually, well, like I would say two main things. One, my coach actually left at the end of my second year. She went to a different Division II. And then also I had been considering it already because I had felt like, I had already accomplished a lot of Division II and I'm really competitive and I don't want to settle and just, because there wasn't much else for me to accomplish, especially individually. But as a team, obviously we could have like gone further in the tournament and stuff, but we still made the NCAA tournament and had a pretty good run. So I just felt like I had done pretty much everything I could at Division II, and it was time to, kind of challenge myself. And still, when I went into the portal, I didn't know like if I would end up at Division 1 or not, because you just never know how like teams will perceive like Division 2, because the competition is like a lot different. So I didn't know where I'd end up, but I did know that I wanted a new challenge for me, and just I wanted to keep getting better in whichever way I could challenge myself, and whatever's going to put me in the best positions to do that. That's kind of how I helped make my decision.
Well, I've got to ask because you ultimately, of course, you said earlier, the rest is history. You commit to Marshall. How early, I guess, in the process was then head coach Tony Kemper and that staff like zeroed in on you and trying to get you to Huntington?
I would say really quick, actually. I went to the portal. I don't remember what day it was, but then I left Shepherd because it was only an hour drive. I was going home for the weekend, and I think it was like a day later. I remember I was on the way home, and Coach Jenna, who was the assistant with under Coach Kemper and stayed with Coach Kim, she like emailed me. She was like one of the first Division 1s, and I remember I like sent the screenshot immediately to my best friend. But it was like pretty quick, and then after that, like we just got to talking and set up all the visits, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they were in on me pretty quick. So
Well, they must have had an impact because the herd won the portal lottery with you, obviously, because you came to Marshall and immediately were an impact player for the herd. I mean, immediately. Even last year, a lot of fans, new fans, were turned on to women's basketball in a bigger way this year because of all that we accomplished as a team. But Russ and I were following last year. Just in the course of doing the ThunderCast, and repeatedly it was Abby Beeman with this stat line. Abby Beeman's such an impact player every game, every week, and we were like, man, this is kind of how did we hit get the D2 All American? That's because that's what we were kind of thinking, and how did this happen? And our narrative 2 years ago, or whatever you want to call your first year with the herd, was like, man, Marshall's really got two really good scores. Rashala Scott, Abby Beeman are really taking over games. And if we could just get that consistent third score all the time, every now and again, we'll get that third score. But if we had a consistent third score, my Marshall would be really, really hard to contend with. So you put up great numbers last year, and then another coaching change. Coach Kemper leaves, and you're put in, I'm assuming, a position to just have to ask yourself the natural questions. Do I want to stay with Marshall? Do I want to re-enter the portal, like another coaching change? Can you walk me through that? So Coach Kemper left. Now you're here in Huntington. We haven't hired Coach Kim yet. What's going through your mind at that point in the interim between the coaches?
yeah, so I was definitely I was upset to lose Coach Comfort, just because I ultimately chose to come to Marshall to play under him. So I was like, oh, I have to go through this again, because my coach had previously left at the Division 2 level. But honestly, and I'm not lying when I say this, like I had a brief, like super brief moment of, I could transfer, but I was I was still exhausted from the first time. Like, I don't know how kids transfer 4 times, because it is exhausting doing it once. So I trust Christian and Brad, and they've, like, up to that point they had made, I don't know, maybe only a few hires, but good decisions. And he talked to us, Christian did, and like asked what we wanted in a coach and stuff, and that kind of just gave me, reassurance that he was putting us first and what we wanted, and what we wanted in a coach. Obviously, he would have the final say, but he was listening to us and our needs and wants. So I think that just gave me confidence to just trust in the administration. And not only that, but when you choose a school, you don't choose it just for the basketball. I was happy there. I was happy living there, with my academics. That's something I think that kind of gets lost in the transfer process, is you might want to go to a school, but maybe your classes won't transfer. And like, that happened to me when I was transferring. Not that I wanted to go to a different school, but even when I was just looking at the possibility, it was like, okay, you might have to do another year to get your undergrad. So I think that kind of gets lost. But yeah, so I decided to stay and stuck it out. It didn't really take them too long to get Coach Kim in. But the anticipation was definitely, I don't know, like nervousness, excitement, all the feelings. But we ended up with a pretty good one, so I'm glad I stuck around for it.
Well, that might be the understatement of the whole damn episode. We ended up with a pretty good one. Yeah, well, let's talk about that because you had familiarity with Coach Kim, right? You were opponents, right? She was on the other side of the court from you while you were at Shepherd and she was at Glenville.
Mhm.
So, knowing what you knew, and once you heard coming down, like Marshall's going to hire Kim Caldwell, what was that like for you? You're like, oh, well, I'm familiar with this style. I've played against it. Um, I got to hear the answer straight from you because I like to think that I know what was going through your head. And I would like to, I just want to tell you, I think in your head, you probably went, oh, I'm going to thrive in this system. Oh, this is what I've been waiting on. So what was it like when you finally got the news that Kim Caldwell was going to be the coach at Marshall?
Yeah, I would say first, like a feeling of relief, just knowing that we had some kind of leadership again, because those few weeks, it's like basically just do whatever you want. It's not like a postseason. So I think first and foremost, we were all just kind of relieved to have a coach. But then, like you said, I was familiar with her style, unlike many of the other girls. She actually ended my Division II career, so
I wasn't
something
going to say that. I
I
was
had
going
to
to
get
leave that
over
part
pretty
out.
quick. But yeah, her style kind of fits my game as we got to see this year. Just I like
Mhm.
to play up tempo, and she lets us get out in transition and kind of just run and not really have set plays. Kind of like a 180 from Coach Kemper's style, but yeah, I was definitely excited to see how I'd fit into it and finally, see that, because when you watch it from afar, at least, I mean, I got to play against it, but if you ever got to watch her Glenville games, like how would anyone like want to go there and play like sub out every minute? Like I don't know how they do it, but when you're really in it, and kind of understand her philosophy behind it, it just makes a lot of sense and it produces successful results.
I would say that it most definitely produces successful results. So we're going to just backtrack just a bit because now Kim's here. You're about to enter this final season, right? And it was apparent that you were in for a really big monster season, despite, like you just said, substitutions very regularly. It just was apparent that you were going to be a big, big, big part of the overall success of Marshall women's basketball this past season. In fact, what we like to say is that Abby Beeman was often the straw that stirred the drink of women's basketball at Marshall. You and you know that guard play, just your collection of guards was really kind of unmatched, right? So let's talk about that. Your point total went up this year. Your steals total went up, assists, all while minutes per game went down, shockingly. So, what was it that I don't know made you more effective and far more efficient in this up tempo style offense? How did you just simply thrive in the system?
So she, like you said, I think that kind of gets lost in things sometimes is that my minutes per game did go down by a significant amount too, but the results were better. So I think that's kind of interesting to look at. But I would say it's all based on her system. Obviously, she'll tell you first like it's a possession battle. So I mean, if you saw the box score for the JMU game, like how many more possessions and shots did we get up than them? So I think that's what allows for the results, and that's kind of how my numbers happen, especially with like assists and stuff. The way she lets us get out in transition, just easy to like kick ahead for layups and beat people down the court. So I think that, and obviously the steals is because we press the whole game. So that's kind of how you get those. But points per game, it's just like she doesn't really yell at people for taking any kind of shot either. She just kind of lets you play free and loose, and you're not out there thinking about too much. Just go out there, play, have fun. Not too many sets. Just kind of like 5-on-5 pickup, honestly, for us. Like, but yeah, it's a really fun style, and I was thankfully able to have a great year playing in it. And now, from the inside looking out, I would recommend playing for her to anyone.
Well, I can appreciate that, but I would also please don't go to Tennessee. Please come to Marshall and play basketball,
Yes, yes,
please.
yes.
No, but I understand that. Like she is a complete rock star. I am one of those that is thankful for the 1 year that we got. Obviously, I was hoping to have 2, 3, 4 years, but it was just painfully apparent that she is a rock star in the coaching ranks. She's going to do massively big things at Tennessee. And I'm just thankful that we got one magical year, 2 championships. I'm going to keep saying that. You guys had 2 separate 10-game win streaks during that season. That's the one that I really love talking about.
I didn't even know that. So
yeah, so you there was a hiccup right in the middle. I guess maybe a James Madison game or something on the road. That was it. 10 games before that, and then 10 games after that, straight win streaks. That to me is amazing. You doubled the attendance for Herd women's basketball at the CAM. I mean, these type of things matter. I think this program has been elevated to a new floor, and it doesn't matter currently who the new coach is, because the floor has been elevated. There's an excitement around this program that just was not there to the level it is now. And if we can capture on that momentum and build off of that momentum, man, Herd women's basketball can continue to be a force in the Sun Belt for the foreseeable future. Let's talk about this kind of the season accolades. It all culminated with a regular season championship, a Sun Belt Conference tournament championship in an instant classic game against James Madison. I would feel comfortable saying the number one all-time instant classic women's basketball game at Marshall. Utterly amazing. I was in the airport that day flying back from being in Huntington, and I was sitting in the airport watching on my phone, and then I had to board the plane. You guys were down. It was not looking good. And then I flew back to Clearwater. I climbed off the plane, and when I put my phone off of airplane mode, it was like the Twitter world just exploded. I'm like, what the hell happened? And then I come out, you guys go to overtime and you win the damn game. And I'm like, I missed it all. So I did have to go back and watch it. So I had spoilers on the phone, but I went back and watched it. Absolutely amazing game. And I got to imagine you've been to the NCAA tournament at the Division II level, but everybody that plays basketball that has collegiate aspirations has to dream about making that NCAA tournament, right? And even though every team but one team ends their season with a loss, the result, though you may want it to have been better, at the end of the day becomes inconsequential because it's about the trip. It's about achieving that goal, right? So even though it was a business trip to Blacksburg, did you allow yourself in that moment leading up to that to appreciate where you guys were and like what you were about to do? Or was it just, nope, it's all business. I'll think about this later. I'll reflect later. What was that like for you?
I think it was a little bit of both. And I always say this, like, it's so much harder for like a mid-major program to get to the NCAA tournament. Like, yeah, like one thing goes wrong in that JMU game, one thing goes differently, and we're not in that position. So I definitely had, a good sense of, gratitude that we were able to make it there, but also being the competitor that I am, I was still there to try and win the game. That was still a goal of ours. So I think it was a little bit of both. Definitely our team knew, and I was aware that it took so much to get to that moment, and we have a lot to be proud of, but also that we still had a game ahead of us.
Yeah, of course. It is a business. It was all business, man. But I wonder, see, because I was never that good to play at that level in anything. So I often wonder, how would I react? Would I be in the moment, or would I be so locked out of the moment and focused on business that I wouldn't enjoy it? I truly don't know how I would answer that. So that kind of stuff is always interesting to me. I love digging into the minds of great players, and we're going to do that a little bit here, in a little bit. But so now that your time with the Thundering Herd is over from a player standpoint, let me run down some career records for you, because the record book hasn't been updated yet from this season's stats. So I did the math, and I'd like to share some of your single season and all-time records with you, because you got a few. Don't know if you know, but you got a few. Let's start with some single season records. Your 549 points scored this past season are now good enough for 11th all time. Your 67 three-pointers made this season is good for 7th all time. And your 77 steals, what the hell happened to that? Your 77 steals is now 5th all time. This season is good for your 200. I'm sorry, your 209 assists this season are good for 2nd all time, while your 164 last season, you knocked yourself down a spot, are now 7th all time. So that's pretty good stuff for a single season. You had a remarkable final hurrah with the Herd. Your career marks of 114 made three-pointers is now good for 12th all time in a career at Marshall, and your 375 assists is good for 6th all time with the Herd. Not too bad for just 2 seasons in
Yeah.
Kelly green and white. Congratulations, obviously, on an amazing career. You are, without a doubt, one of the most dynamic players that I have ever seen play for the Thundering Herd. It was truly a pleasure to watch on the court. I
Oh, I
can't
appreciate
thank
that.
you enough. I really can't thank you enough.
No, I appreciate that. I thank you for the coverage and promoting us all the time. So
Yeah. Well, we try. We certainly try. We think it's important to be athletic department fans, not just sports specific fans. If that's what you choose to do, that's fine. We're not holding a gun to anybody's head, but we think it's important to know when players like Abby Beeman are accomplishing, when players like Abby Beeman are winning games for the Herd. That is just as important as anybody else out there doing the good work for the Herd. So I got to ask now, what is next for Abby Beeman? What's the next step?
yeah, that's the $1 million question I get asked all the time. But I am gonna try and go play overseas. Just I love basketball so much, and I feel like if I at least don't try, or if I at least try and don't like it, I can say I at least tried instead of if I don't give it a shot, I might always look back and wonder. So I'm gonna give it a try, and we'll see how it goes.
Had a girl, man. Regret is the worst. Uh, I support that. Go for it. Shoot your shot, as they say. You might as well see if you can make it happen. We've all got a limited amount of shots in us. You
Yeah.
might as well give it a shot while you can. We've had some successful players make the run at overseas basketball, and some of them have even come full circle and found a roster spot back here in the States. So I say do it, man. Hell yeah, do it. We'll follow your career wherever it leads, and we'll be cheering from afar, however many thousands of miles away it may be. So as I indicated a little bit ago, I love digging into the mind of our great players, and I want to ask you a few questions. We're going to get a little philosophical perhaps for a minute, but some fun stuff too. One of my favorite things to ask is what advice would you give to your younger self? Knowing what you know now and how it has all played out up to this point, what advice would you give to your younger self? The Abby that's coming out of high school and kind of unsure what the future holds or where those opportunities are going to come from while you're in the mix there. And really athletes that are going through that right now. What advice would you give to yourself?
Yeah, so I'd probably just say that, like, I don't, you don't want to find your identity in basketball because I definitely like basketball, like in high school and still like even in college for a little bit. It was just like, I love basketball, like nothing else mattered, like just basketball. Then like kind of last year, and as like I've approached this year, I'm like, one day the ball will stop bouncing, and I'm gonna be done playing basketball, and then am I gonna have anything, to fall back on after that? And even just like the thought of this year, just kind of like, wow, like it's gonna be done, at least college basketball for me in a little bit. Like, am I just basketball? Like, what else do I have going for me? So I was luckily able to figure that out probably like 2-3 years ago. But I would definitely tell, other kids to still invest in like other things. Obviously work hard and pour a lot into your sport because you don't want to have any regrets like we talked about. But still find things outside of basketball that make you happy and that you enjoy doing so that, whenever your sport is over, whatever sport that may be, that you're well prepared for your next chapter.
Wow. Insightful. Uh, Finding out who you are outside of the sport you play is not one that I've heard yet.
Yeah.
And tell you what, you're shaping up to be a one of one here. A lot of
I'm
stuff is
breaking some
happening.
records here on ThunderCast.
Yeah, you're doing a hell of a damn good job, I tell you. Maybe you've got a future in this type of thing. Uh, you have played with some great players, both at Marshall and before. But of course, most of our listeners are focused on what happened in your 2 years with the herd. You've nobody does it alone. It's a team for a reason, and I love finding out who those players are for you that you think just will never receive the proper amount of appreciation because of the work they did and what they meant to your team. Who are a couple of those players for you?
So I'll say it's really hard. You put me on the spot here.
I know, but that's
Um,
part of the fun.
but off the top of my head, I feel like a lot of our team got a good amount of recognition this year. But I'll say, like, I think Meredith is one of them for sure. She had a great year, especially if she went on a run there where she was hitting a ton of threes per game. But she does the little things, and I think it kind of takes away, like, when you're a really good shooter like that, the spacing on the, like, that opens up so much for me, like, because you can't help off of her. And even if she doesn't get the ball, like, she's never going to be one to be like, hey, like, you should have passed it, or whatever it may be. So she's very unselfish and puts the team first and doesn't care about her stat line or what she did. She really just wants to win. And I love playing with those kind of players where, as long as you win, you don't care what happened, during the game. And I try to obviously hold myself to a high standard as well. And you want to have expectations for yourself. But at the end of the day, you're out there to win games. So if you accomplish that, the rest should just kind of be set to the side. So I'll say Meredith for one. I think also another West Virginia kid, Peyton. Peyton's like a really Peyton Ilderton, for the listeners, but she's a really good hustle player and just does the little things that don't show up in the box score all the time. Her defense is really good, just really scrappy. I know we kind of joked about it at the banquet this past weekend that, like, in practice you do not want to box Peyton out. She's gonna go get that ball however she has to go. But so I'll say those two for sure. But there's so many players on our team that this year and honestly last year, probably more so this year, that really contributed that might not always show up when you look at a stat sheet or a box score. So that's what made us so special, I think, is just because we had so many people contribute in so many different ways.
Yeah, you can't really run a hockey style line changing substitution offense without having a lot of impactful players. But I love the two that you pointed out. Meredith Mayer had a great season, really found the groove towards the middle end of the season,
Yeah.
caught some fire, landed on the all tournament team for the Sun Belt Conference tournament. That was big, man. If ultimately, I have no insider knowledge, right? I have no clue. Ultimately, if she remains with the herd and stays for this next season, undoubtedly going to be a big part of what the Thundering Herd is able to do. Looking forward to having her back on the roster, as well as Peyton Ilderton. Southern West Virginia through and through. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Peyton, don't hate me if I'm wrong. Logan County, if I'm accurate, I think it's Logan. Um, I got a lot of friends from that area. They're just wired that way, man. They're just some hardworking folks that will not be outdone. I love those choices. I absolutely love those choices. Tell me, why is it that Marshall is special to you?
So many reasons. I could be here all day talking about that, but I would say the people make a place wherever you are. And the people in Huntington, I feel like if you're not in it, you don't really know. It might get like a bad reputation from other people, from the outsiders, but there's truly so many good people, especially at Marshall. I've never had, anything bad, no bad experiences. I haven't ran into someone who's just like rude or, not having a good day, so they treat you a certain way. It's never been anything like that. So literally from the top to the bottom, every single person I've encountered has always just been, great to me, and not just me, but to our team and to the community. So I think that's what really, makes Marshall special, is the people.
Wow. Well, I think we take pride in that. I know that Marshall has a national reputation of being one of the friendliest, if not the most friendly and hospitable fan bases out there. That's something that we take pride in, and we love for opposing fans to come to Huntington. We always try to take care of our own herd family, obviously, but we love opposing fans to come to Huntington and experience herd hospitality firsthand, because we thoroughly believe that if you come to Huntington once, you will come back to Huntington again. Who would you say has had the biggest impact on your life at Marshall?
Oh my gosh. You're
Yeah.
making me think here.
Good. Good.
There's so many. Wow. Like, I would say it's just hard because there was honestly a lot of turnover in my 2 years, so that's why it's kind of hard to pick one person. But I would say honestly this might be like kind of a left field answer, but the people who come to like all of our practices. I don't know if you're familiar with any of them, like Stormy, like one of our biggest fans, comes to every single practice, every single home game. But there's a few of them that show up for us every single day, and I didn't really experience any of that at the Division II level. So just I feel like that's just kind of a good representation of how passionate the fan base is. You have people showing up every single day to just watch you practice basketball. And the cool thing about that is it's the same people through the coaching change. So even though the coaching staffs changed, they didn't. They stayed there. They definitely kept showing up for us every single day, and I think that just showed me like a good sense of loyalty and how good our fan base is at Marshall. So I'll say our loyal fans who show up for us every single day.
Jiminy Christmas, you're killing me with these answers. This is like I'm never have I had anybody approach these questions this way. This is pretty awesome, I got to tell you. All right, let's get fun a little bit. When you're out there grinding, right? You're putting in the work on the court. What's on the playlist? What do you got to have to get you going?
Yeah, so I'm actually very, very versatile in music, but if I'm working out, getting some shots up, it's either going to be I will play country music or what they're on some hip hop in there. I like Drake a good bit. Some other ones, of course, but country I like. This is good. I like Noah Kahan. I like Morgan Wallen, Luke Combs, the big ones, Tyler Childers. So yeah, it just depends on my mood. If it was like early in the year when we were practicing at like 8 a.m., I didn't really want to go in there and start playing some hardcore rap. So we'd always have the country on then. So it just depends on what's going on, but I can pretty much vibe to anything. So
I hear you. I think you ripped off quite a few that are on my personal playlists as well. I'm in that kind of vibe too. I can get with that. You mentioned finding yourself off of the court, discovering who you are as a person a little bit. So, when it's not basketball, what are you into? What do you do? What do you like to do?
yeah, so I'm really big into my faith, so I definitely lean into that. I'm not on the court. Love my family, my friends. I will say I kind of have like a small circle, but I make sure the people I have around me, are good for me and have good intentions. So I definitely like to pour into people. I'd say when I'm not on the court and just doing the right thing. I've definitely realized that people are going to remember how you treat them and how good of a person that you are. So I try to do that stuff, but I love to. This sounds terrible because it's still kind of like sports, but like I enjoy kind of just like going for runs as well. The Barbersville Park, I was there a good bit, especially when we didn't have like a lot of basketball going on. I'm just kind of enjoying outdoors. I don't like to be sitting too much. I don't like doing schoolwork all the time. So definitely try to get outside, to stay active. I also recently, actually, Marshall introduced me to this. Well, people around Marshall. I love playing pickleball now, and I know it's kind of
Oh,
like on the rise. So I still like to stay involved in sports, but um, not just basketball. Things that you can do for a long time after it. So I'll
yeah.
say those are the things that I enjoy and like to give my time to.
I can dig that too, man. There's not much really better than a mind clearing run outside. I mean,
Yeah,
that has a soul cleansing effect. I can
yeah.
definitely get behind that. I can see
Especially when
that.
enjoyable, and you're not like running like
Yeah, it's not competitive. It's just
yeah,
I'm outdoors and with the sights and smells of being outdoors and just
yeah.
enjoying that time in the weather. I understand. I understand. Look, this is one of my absolute favorite things to do, and this is a point where I'm basically just going to turn the show over to you, right?
Okay.
I'm going to give you the opportunity to say whatever it is you want to say, whatever message you have, and say it to whoever that you want to say it to for as long as you want to talk. I don't. This is your portion of the show to just kind of take over. So I'm just going to quiet down. I'm going to turn the mic over to you, and you will go uninterrupted until you are finished. So the mic is yours.
Okay, I've never done this before, but I probably won't go for too long. But I will say that I'm just super thankful for. I know we've already touched on it, but the community and the people who supported our team, especially this year, it was just amazing. And our crowds that we got was like a sixth man. Definitely helped us get some wins. And I think sometimes the fans may not always feel their impact on a team or on a player or even on a program, but I kind of want to emphasize like how important it is, for the fan support. And even through this coaching change, I hope that the women's basketball fan base will stay there and it'll keep growing. Because I do think we have, all the facilities and all the things necessary for this team to continue to be good. And I think the coaching hire will be a great one for us. So I would just encourage the fans in Huntington to continue to support our team. And just lastly, just really, really, really want to say thank you to everyone that poured into me at Marshall and gave, stuff to our program. And I'm forever in debt for it. And Marshall will forever hold a special place in my heart. So that's kind of my little spiel.
Well, there you have it. That's straight from the mind of the great Abby Beeman. It was such a pleasure having you on the show today. I'm immensely thankful that you thought enough of me to grant me some of your time to help bring our fan base closer to you. Everything that you've done, I'm just so thankful for everything that you've done for Marshall women's basketball to help elevate that program, bring home some championships, and just provide so many exciting moments. It sounds cliche, but it will truly not soon be forgotten. I think that's something that Marshall fans do a great job of is remembering the great players and the great teams that we've had. So I don't want you to go anywhere, but I'm going to take us out like this. So one last time, point guard, standing 5'4" from Frankfort High School in Ridgely, West Virginia, number 4,